Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome everyone. Good to see everyone here back again. Uh happy Wednesday, happy Thursday, happy whatever day it is, because I know we have people tuning in from all over the world. But it's great to be back. Great to see everyone again. I see a couple people, new faces, and some people hadn't seen in a while. Salute to you, the condemned man. It's been a minute. Glad to see you, sir. And also too, Ms. Denise Mobley. Good to see you as well too. Yeah, excited. We're in March, so the seasons are changing, and I always enjoy like this time of year, as you know, because this allows me the opportunity to wear more of my fragrances and do the things like that I get to enjoy. Weather's starting to get a little better, so you can be outside enjoying yourself and enjoying life. I know some people are on spring break as well too, so hopefully, whatever you're doing, that you are traveling safely. I'm going to be your success concierge is going to be traveling some next month as well too. As you know, I'm an image consultant, and so just like other industries, they have their, I guess, their bodies. Like lawyers have the bar, actors have the SAG, such and so forth. There is an association for image consultants. It's a global agency and a global group, and so they will be having their conference next month, which I will be attending. And I'm very much looking forward to that, to connect with other professionals. Hint, hint, clue, clue, because we're talking about relationship building. Connect with other professionals out there, and then also hone my craft. Iron sharpens iron. So, as you know, I am Eric Hall, your success concierge, and I help individuals in business maximize their desired outcomes by optimizing the ABCD's: image, appearance, behavior, communication, digital footprint, because that allows you to put yourself in position to make a good first impression. Because if you don't make a good first impression, you're going to lose opportunities for business, opportunities for connections, opportunities for growth, and it's going to go left instead of right. So I make it very simple. We connect, we do a consultation, and then we create a plan, and then we execute. So shout out to the individuals who reached out to me over the last couple of weeks. I look forward to working with you and helping you achieve your outcomes. As usual, what do we get into? Our scent of the day. This right here, it's bond number 9, Queens. Now, what I like, and then I like the bottle, of course. It's got the Q on the front, and then it's got the globe, North and South America on the back. This right here is one of my favorite fragrances. It's a champaca fragrance. So champaca is a flower. It's pretty rare, and so not a lot of fragrances use it. Not a lot of fragrances do it well. There was one by Tom Ford that I used to love, Champaca Absolute, just amazing. But this right here, this is perfect for warmer days, right? 70 to 90, you even go a little bit higher, but it's a cool Champaca fragrance. This right here, gentlemen and ladies can wear this. This is office scent worthy, so you can wear it a number of occasions. It's calm and, and relaxing, grown and sexy too. It may not be as give you as much punch on your date night, but it just depends on the rest of your outfit how well that works for you. So bond number 9, Champaca Absolute. So that is our scent of the day. That's what we have going on here. And salute to everyone who's tuning in to the chat. But just like I said, I'm going to be traveling a little bit, and we're talking about relationship building. Life happens outside in the field. A lot of people, especially now that COVID is over, they're getting out, they're enjoying themselves a little bit more. They're making connections, but we're going back to a time where people are going to have to differentiate themselves, make connections, interact, and continue to add value to others. And that's actually what our topic is about. Because a lot of individuals, they want to grow, they want to achieve outcomes, and it is very, very, very difficult, even if you're individualistic, to achieve these outcomes without relationships and other people. You can have someone like a Floyd Mayweather, or a tennis star like Serena Venus, Tiger Woods. Those type of individuals, even though they do individualistic things, they still make connections and build relationships. All right. And so, a wise person once told me, shout out to Bill Walsh, that a wise person always invest in great relationships, because relationships can set you up for success, or they can set you up for failure. And also, too, it's not just about creating and making those connections. It is also about building and maintaining those connections and maintain those great relationships and that great standing. We've seen individuals who were loved one day and then hated the next day. All right. And it could have been a long term thing. We see that with some of the celebrities who may have, had a fan base, and then they have gotten themselves into some legal trouble. And that leads into our case study. And I was really excited about this case study for a number of reasons. Um, because this is someone who came up in a time where life was very difficult for people like her. And when I say people like her, she came up in the time during slavery, and she was mixed race as well too. So it was definitely a challenge. She was a woman as well, but then there were a lot of obstacles to her success. But she had great work ethic. She was very good at her craft, and people referred her to other people, and she was able to grow her reputation as well too. So we're going to go ahead and get into that. This is going to be our case study on Miss Elizabeth Keckley. Let me get everything set up so we can make sure everything is working. Let's do this. And y'all make sure y'all hit the like button if you haven't done so already. Let me share my screen here. All right, let me double check, make sure my slides are changing as well too, because sometimes it doesn't do what I need it to do, and it looks like it is. Okay, great. All right. All right, so let's move this down here. Let's hide this right now. All right, so I am Eric Hall, your success concierge, and today we're going to be talking about the power of relationships, our case study on Elizabeth Keckley. Now, a couple caveats. This person has been passed for a lot of time, and so I'm doing as best I can to make sure the information is accurate as possible. Also, too, there are some stock photos that I use as well too, because some of those photos from that time period may be a little bit difficult to come by. But we're going to get into the power of relationships, a case study on Elizabeth Keckley. So let's get started. All right. So this was, as I said earlier, for those who just now tuning in, this was a young lady. She was born in the 1800s, 1880, 1818, in Dinwiddie, Virginia. And she was the daughter of a slave. Her mother was a light-skinned black woman who also had Irish ancestry to the planter class, and she was what they called a house slave. And so, one of the things I think this was beneficial to her upbringing is she was able to read and write, even though it was illegal at the time. There was the Burwell family that owned them, and so she would make clothes. Her mother did for them, as well as the other 70 slaves who was on there. And so at the time she was born, she didn't know this, but her mother, when her mother died, she told her that her slave master, Mr. Burwell, was also her father as well too. And so her mom got married to George Pleasant Hobbs. He was an illiterate slave who worked and lived at a neighboring home. But the family who owned him moved away, and so he was separated at the time. And so even though they were separated, they wrote and corresponded. But it was tough on her mom. Keithley said the most precious mementos of my existence are faded in old letters that he wrote, full of love, always hoping the future would bring brighter days. All right. So this is the Burwell family that actually own her, and you're gonna see some interesting as we go further in this case study. Some of the interesting connections to people throughout history that Miss Keekly had as well too. So the Burwell family, he was a colonel in the War of 1812. He had a wife, and they had four children, all under 10. And so Keekly, when she was born, she would work alongside her mom at 4 years old. And and it's interesting, she's four, and she was assigned to be a nursemaid to a child younger than she is. So I guess that helps us eliminate a lot of excuses for young people getting things done. And so she's just 4 years old, and if she did something that they didn't like or accidental with the baby, she would be harshly punished. One time she had tipped the cradle over too far, and the baby fell. And so the mother, Mary, she had beaten her, and she grew up helping her mom make clothes. And so during the teenage years, she was given out on loan to one of the families, and she was with one of her half brothers, and they wanted to break her because she was a proud woman. She was smart. She was intelligent. She was uh, I guess you could say stubborn to achieve certain levels of success. You have to be. And they sent this gentleman to beat her in an attempt to break her. He did a couple times, but she continued to resist. And then one day he just had a change of heart. He said he was moved by the spirit, and he never beat her again. But while she was on loan, she was essayed, as you will, for 4 years, and she ended up having a son, but she named him after George, her stepfather, as well too. And this is just a outfit of a young person of that time. And so as she grew up into adulthood, she went back to Virginia, where she served, the Armstead's daughter Anne and her husband, and Anne was, as we said, her half sister, and they moved several times, and so they ended up in St. Louis, and it was just Elizabeth, her mom Agnes, and her son George, and they were brought along because they had childcare skills as well as sewing skills, and so she became a accomplished seamstress, and she would work alongside her mother, and work long hours, and she would earn enough just basically like that to support the Garland family, because I get they at the time they had significant financial trouble. And so while she was in St. Louis for that 12-year period, she had the opportunity, because St. Louis, they had a large population of free blacks in that area, and also too, she was able to meet and mingle with them, and also white women. Remember, she's a seamstress as well too, and she was going to utilize these connections to earn her freedom and become, start a business as a professional dressmaker. And so she had met a young man, James, but she refused to marry him because she didn't want to have any other children born into slavery. This is her and her outfit, like amazing dress here. She didn't want to have any children born to slavery, and so she wanted to make sure her and her son were free. Um, she initially asked, and he refused. So she worked for 2 years to try to persuade him, but he finally agreed that the sum of $1,200, which in this time would be right around $40,000, for them to purchase their freedom. And so his wife put it in writing, and one of her clients, they would take collections as well, to help complete the sale, which was done on November 1955. And so she stayed in St. Louis and actually repaid the people for the loan, uh, because she wanted to leave with her husband after that. And so her son George, he enrolled in Wilberforce University, and she initially, one of her plans was to move to Baltimore for 6 weeks, and she wanted to teach young colored women the method of cutting and fitting dresses, but she just couldn't find enough income to support herself. And this is just life lessons: perseverance, overcoming challenges, even though you have goals and things you want to do, keep fighting and going forward. And so she moved to Washington. And so she planned to work as a seamstress, but she couldn't get a license to remain there for no more than 10 to 30 days. So one of her patrons, who was the wife of the mayor, he vouched for her to get a license, and which he granted to her. And he also, General John Mason, the descendant son of George Mason. There's a university named after him. That's him in the picture. He also vouched for her, saying that she's a free woman, and that way allow her to establish residence in the area. And so she continued to grow her client base so she could support herself. And after that, she started connecting with some of the political elite. So it's some interesting people and times and names that you'll probably recognize if you know U.S. history. So at one point, she completed a silk dress for Mary Anna Custis Lee, and she was the wife of Robert E. Lee, who became over the Confederacy, one of the generals there, and because this was for a dinner for the Prince of Wales. And so she became very successful. She had 20 seamstresses working for her at her business. You can see an example here in the background. And it would take typically 2 to 3 weeks to make a dress, which is interesting because I know even in this modern time where we have all the technology we have, I know some ladies here who they probably wish they could get a dress done that quickly in 2 to 3 weeks. But she would do that, and because she had staff doing that, she could focus on fitting and the styling of the garments. And according to the Smithsonian in D.C., she became known as the dressmaker in D.C. because her garments fit exceptionally well. And she was the favorite seamstress of Varina Davis. She was the wife of Jefferson Davis. He later became president of the Confederacy. And then also too, she did a dress for a young lady, Margaret McLean, a general, a daughter of a general who was from the Union side, but she agreed to introduce her to Abraham Lincoln, who was just newly elected. And so after she did complete the dress, McLean was going to introduce her to Mary Todd Lincoln, that was Abraham's wife. So they actually met at the inauguration, March 4th, 1881. And, she was trying to get ready for the White House on time to have a dress. So that's how she became her personal dresser. And also, too, at the time, Mary Todd was doing things that were like florals, bright colors, and had a youthful style. But as you can see here pictured, this Victorian style added a level of class and sophistication that she did not have. And as a result of them being close all the time, they became really, really good friends. Keckley would visit them in their living quarters and even was part of, private family conversations. And even Abraham Lincoln, she would assist him in getting ready, making sure his hair was nice and on point to make him presentable as well too. All right, she was also an activist because she was a freed slave. She bought her freedom and became successful. They would write articles about her as this is an example of what to follow, what to do, and she even established an organization, the Lady Freedmen Soldier Release Association, and it was going to help transition people who were previously enslaved until they became established. And then, as you see here, you may or may not recognize this woman here. That is Abraham Lincoln and Sojourner Truth. She was also an activist as well. And so she introduced the two of them. And, Keckley, along with Lincoln, they visited Richmond after the Civil War. And so she had a strong relationship with the family. As I said, she became very good friends with Mary Todd. She was known to have a very common manner, and so she helped Mary Todd when she was agitated with grief. Keckley, she lost her son in the Civil War, and then Mary Todd lost her son because of typhoid fever, and then of course her husband Abraham was assassinated. And so she received a lot of things and gifts from the Lincoln family. Second dress from the inauguration. Also, too, she received the clothes that Mary Todd had from the theater. They had a little bit of blood on them from his assassination attempt or assassination at the theater, and also some of her personal items, his personal items. And so Mary Todd, after Abraham had passed, they had fell on a little bit of difficult times. So even Keckley was going to help them sell some of her valuables like jewelry and clothing, and to help support the financial challenges. It just didn't go as well as they thought because they were saying they were trying to profit. But a lot of the memorabilia that she had, she donated to Wilberforce College as a fundraiser because they had had a fire in 1865, and that kind of upset Mary Todd Lincoln as well. And she wanted to do some things to help establish or rebuild the reputation of the Lincoln family. And so she wrote this book, Behind the Scenes. That's what it was called. And it talked about her, her time of slavery and provided some insight on the lives of the Lincoln family. And the one focus that it had was her ability to overcome difficulties and business sense and forming relationships and making connections. And it also talked about her relationship with Mary Todd. But as I said, the intent was to improve perception of Lincoln, but also to being able to benefit the family financially as well too. But some critics felt like she had crossed the line as an African American and former slave because they had a strong thing to separate public as versus private life, and as a result, we talk about relationships. She lost many of her dressmaking clients. So in later years in her life, she earned a modest living until about 1890. This is Wilberforce University. So they made her head of domestic arts. And then she had an exhibit at the World Fair in Chicago, which you see a mural here. and she had had a mild stroke, so she resigned in 1893. But as I said earlier, she had what they call a blueprint for Black autonomy, and what that means is, we have a lot of organizations today that fundraise, that provide support, food, clothing, all those shelter, all those type of things, um, for um, for uh for people and organizations. I had So she founded the Contraband Relief Association uh, in 1862. And this was helped to her by white patrons, the Lincoln family, as well as well-off freed blacks. And it was later changed in 1864 to the Lage Freedmen and Soldier Relief Association. After blacks started service in the U.S. colored troops. So some of the things they did was they provided medical care, food, shelter, clothing for the newly freed people, because they were called contraband. Because although they were freed in D.C., they weren't nationally freed at that time, or legally free. And so she would see other organizations have festivals to benefit the sick and wounded soldiers, and it was organized by whites. So she felt like she could do the same thing for her. And so she had churches, a few in the area, and she had some prominent black people you may have heard of, like Frederick Douglass, Henry Garnet, J. Sella Martin, and even the white prominent abolitionist Wendell Phillips. And so at the time, in the first year, they raised about $838. In the second year, they raised over $1,200. And when we look at it, we talk about that's right around 40,000 a day. And they distributed 5,100 articles of clothing. And so this became the blueprint for what you see a lot of organizations that serve the community based on this particular model. They would have concerts, benefits, spoken word, different type of things to engage people as well as raise funds. And so when she moved back to St. Louis, she reacquainted with James Keckley, whom she knew from Virginia. They were allowed to marry, but he portrayed himself as a free man, and they were married for 8 years. But she learned that he wasn't free, and so he relied too much on her for support, and he was not a helpful partner. Subject to abuse for not being a productive man. And then when they separated officially and the marriage ended when he died, allegedly of having too many substances that people like to enjoy at that particular time, overindulgence. And so she had a son. He was 3/4 white, and so he enlisted in the Union Army. He was passable. He had pale skin. This is a picture of the Battle of Wilson's Creek, and that's where her son died. She was able to, they couldn't verify his racial identity, and so eventually they gave her a survivor's pension, which is equivalent to around $306 for the remainder of her life. And so later years, she lived in boarding houses with different families of freed blacks who were caterers, and she, made a dress for their daughter for a christening gown, and she helped to raise the girls of the Lewises after they had passed. But she went to live and help found this organization, the National Home for Destitute Colored Women and Children. Again, she is someone who set a lot of blueprints for a lot of the philanthropy organizations, and this is the actual building here today of that location. But she died in 1907 while she was at the home in D.C., and she was initially interred at Columbia Harmony Cemetery, but they repaved and closed the cemetery, so they moved her. And so as a result, they put this marker here for her there. But she's been noted uh, for her, culture, her polished manager, her intelligence, all those type of things. But she was very well reserved. She designed a quilt from leftover materials from Mary Ty's dresses, and that was held at Kent State to this day. They have books about her. They published an obituary in the New York Times because they wanted to publish about overlooked influential people who passed who weren't reported. And then this dress right here from the Met Gala in 2022. This is inspired by one of Keckley's designs for Mary Todd, but this is Sarah Jessica Parker there. And so she's been on screen before too. This is Gloria Rubin. She played her in the 2012 film Lincoln. Ruby D played her in the miniseries as well. There's been books about her, also plays, Mary T and Lizzie K, those type of things as well too. This is the actual dress from the inauguration, and this is the purple silk dress. This is in the Smithsonian. They have other things at the Chicago History Museum, and then they have a black silk dress with strawberry motif, and that was at Lincoln Presidential Library as well too. So that is our case study on that. I really wanted to talk about how. Let's see here. Stop sharing. Okay, it's not. Oh. I really wanted to talk about just the overall impact and just how putting yourself in position to connect with individuals help form relationships. So thank you for tuning in that part of the case study. I'm Harry Hall, your success concierge, providing you the vision, tools, and opportunity for your desired success. So let's get into it. Let's see what we got going on in the chat here. But that story there is just a great notion about forming relationships, but not only that, just performing and being ready. See, a lot of people just want to get in different spaces, see, talk, but you have to really be able to go there and add value to other individuals, because when you do good things, that helps you boost and promote. And then again, as we say, word of mouth is the best form of advertising. So we're gonna see what we got going on here. I know this has been a long week. We'll see if we have any questions that we need to answer, and we'll go from there. Let me check this out as well too. And also too, hit the Cash App. You can put your questions here, or you can put them in the chat as well too, and I will get to them. So make sure y'all hit the like button when you're coming here, and let's see what type of questions that we have. And it's just actually coincidental. I found out about the Miss Keckley maybe 6 weeks ago. So I wanted to do something on that, and it just happened that it was Women's History Month. She's a great historian. So yeah, so that is that right there. Let's see what kind of questions that we have here. Yeah, this is funny. So this is a fashion question right here. What do you think about the suits that look like two separate suits? So, there's some people, anybody who watched Batman and seen that, there's a trend of Harvey Dent or Two Face, he would wear one suit, but it may be black on this side, white on this other side, so it looks like two separate suits. It's a unique for a one-time thing, but how much use are you going to get out of that? Because again, I always say, where you're going to wear it to, what's the message you're going to send, and what's the value add. So once you've worn it to this occasion, that occasion, how much other use can you get out of it? So that's my thought period on that. I mean, it could be a unique one-off, but I personally, and my recommendation is, get things you can have a lot more use out of, unless it's for a certain occasion. And in that instance, there, hopefully, you're not spending a lot of money to only wear it a few times. There's an instance, James Harden used to have this. He had this suit that I really enjoyed. It had stars on it, and I was like, yeah, it's a great suit, but can only wear it once. So that is my philosophy when it comes to matters such in that. As you know, the three rules: where you're going to wear it to, what's the message you're going to send, and what's the value add, or what is the cost per wear on that. So those are definitely some things that you would look at and consider when you're picking those type of outfits up. So let's see what other kind of questions that we have. All right. So someone asked, "What are your thoughts on Gene Hackman and his wife?" Well, it just came out that they passed a couple weeks ago, and she had I can't think of the condition, and she had passed, and then he had another something that he died, 10 days later or a week later. Talented actor. I really liked him in Mississippi Burning. That's one of my favorite movies. I liked him in Hunt for Red October. And also too, I liked him in Enemy of the State. Him and Will Smith as well too. I know we've had a couple of people pass since then. I know we lost Roberta Flack, Killing Me Softly. She's the first one, not Lauryn Hill, but they both very talented young ladies. And also too, Angie Stone. So just live your best life. Prepare for tomorrow, but enjoy the day. That's what I say. But we do what we can while we're here. Simple as that. All right, let's see what else we got going on here. All right, this is a good question here. This is very not necessarily controversial, but this is interesting. All right, Southwest changed their policies. How would you advise them as an image consultant? All right, so for those who don't know, Southwest Airlines, they're one of the major airlines here in the United States. Well, they're below the big three, the big three, Delta, American, United, but they're a tier or so below that. They've been around over 50 years, based out of Dallas Fort Worth. And some of the things that they had that was open seating, which was first come, first serve, um, black bag fly free. So you get two free check bags. And then you also got, cancellations, all this user friendly type thing. And so they were recently bought or private equity bought a good portion of that. And so they just yesterday announced that they're eliminating those policies. Now, many airlines had long since eliminated bag fees and those type of things, but those are things that made Southwest unique. And so they announced that the fees were going to start sometime right around the summertime, May 28th. And so they got two approaches. But there's a study that said, okay, they would gain 1.5 million in revenue, but lose 1.8 million in customers leaving, or 1.8 million in fees, lose 1.8 million revenue. So a net loss of 300 million. And so it's a couple ways they can do that. They can take the approach of how you heat the frog. So instead of just saying, okay, we're gonna go and we're gonna charge like everyone else, and we're gonna charge $30, $40 a bag, we may charge 5 or 10, right? And so people may be mad, but then they say, oh, it's not that bad. Then they may go from 10 to 12, 12 to 18, and they gradually work their way up. Now, I'm not sure if they have the stomach or patience to do that on a graduated scale, but that's if I was working with them, that's how I would do it and say, okay, no, we're just doing it a little bit. We're not doing it full on. But they have to do some serious damage control because, again, those they were different in the way other airlines were. And so if you become just like all the other airlines and there's no different, then as they say, people look at price, they look at route convenience, and then they look at fees, bag fees. So if you're just like everyone else and you're not able to gain them or keep them with that, not able to gain and keep them with the value add, the premiums, then it's going to be a tough road. And I know a lot of people be like, oh well, they pay a lot of people to pay people a lot of money. Well, these type of people make mistakes. I mean, we saw some of the things with some of organizations. Um, we talked about various boycotts recently, and we talked about there was a alcohol company who thought they were attracting new customers, but were actually alienating those customers, their existing customers, and not really attracting them. That is a staple. So again, I wasn't part of that, um, but I think there's a lot of distrust around that because he said there were going to be no new bag fees, and you got to see, okay, what is your unique selling proposition now that you're quote unquote like everyone else. And for those of you who don't live in the U.S., Southwest, they do have open seating, but they don't have things like first class where you have the extra amenities. When I say first class or business class, I'm talking about not just the fee, but the seats, the amenities, the snacks, the goodies, all those type of things. They don't have things like lounges. They fly to the Caribbean and South America, but they don't fly to places in Europe, Africa, Asia, such and so forth. So again, we'll see. And one of the things that they were hoping to gain revenue from was from credit card use, meaning that they have their private label credit card. So there's every other airline. So I don't know if people will get their card just for bags, but instead of being the first choice, the people are going to make an evaluation, and they're going to look at all the factors, all the information, and then make a decision on whether or not they want to deal with that or deal with else, unless they can come up with some other unique selling proposition. This is fairly new, so I don't know what that is or what that's going to be at the time. It's just that's what was said there. But another great question as well too. All right, let's see what else we got going on here. Let's see. I mean, y'all asked some really, really good questions. Let's see here. This is almost like my sugar baby question, right? Why do you think dating is hard for successful women? Well, it's a number of factors. So typically, right, like when women when they date, they like someone on their level or equal. And as you grow, whether you're a man, woman, or what have you, there are less people at the top who have those type of things. So there's more competition. And then just like we talked about Southwest, like what is your unique selling proposition for the type of men that you want? People have gone, gentlemen in general have become a little bit more discerning. They're wanting more than a pretty face and all these other type of things. And also, too, if you're looking at top tier men, a lot of other people want that same top tier man. So those are the different challenges that see. And so for me, because someone actually reached out to me about this as well, too, if you want to meet these type of men. So you have to understand what is important to these men. Now I know a lot of times, you know, it's you're pretty, you're cute, you look good, and everyone's giving you attention. Well, now you want a certain type of person. You got to see what it is that's important to them and what they want, and see if that fits in what you want to do in your lifestyle, and then put yourself in position to not only meet these types of individuals, but also to put yourself in position where they can see the other qualities that's important to them. Not the quality that's important to you, but the quality that's important to them and what they want, so that you can find your ideal mate. But like anything else, it takes work, especially when you have a discerning taste in a partner. And so it's going to be a bit of a challenge. You have to be strategic. You have to plan, and you have to, break some of those old thoughts and patterns that led, that got you to these places. So that is a really, really good question. And just for a caveat, I have individuals ask me about image to help improve, their relationships, how they look and appear to the opposite sex, as well as how they engage. Because remember, when you're going out, outfits, where you're going to wear it to. Second one is, what's the meaning that you want to send? And I think that's really, really key, because, you could think you're sending one message, and the person who's interacting you, not just your appearance, your behavior, your communication, it's not incongruence. So though all those types of things are important as well too. And not just for, dating relationship, you should be wanting to put your best foot forward. And I talk about ladies, but gentlemen as well too. You should be wanting to put your best foot forward, so you can, be the best version of you, so that you can get outcomes. And you get that by, being good at what you do: appearance, behavior, communication, digital footprint, all those type of things. So yeah, another great question here. All right, y'all want to do this right here? Y'all want to do the political questions? All right, so what are your thoughts on the State of the Union and censures? So here's the thing. If you watch the State of the Union, and there are some people who agree with the left, some people who agree with the right, and there's a way to get things done. There is a lot of, I guess, back and forth, right? And whether it's threats, wolf tickets, whatever the case may be, are you able to back it up with action, policy, and support? That's the thing. There's a lot of people who tough, when you got your big brother behind you and he's going to back you up. But do you really have the intestinal fortitude to make it happen? There's a lot of talk, chatter going back and forth. Some people don't find that to be appropriate. Some people don't find that to be helpful. That's yet to be seen. Personally, from my image consultant and business standpoint, uh, that type of behavior only gets you so far. It's just like a child who misbehaves and throws a tantrum. Well, it may work in your household. It may work for one parent and not the other. But eventually, someone's going to call you out. They're going to get tired of it, and they're going to say, "Okay, that's not how we behave. We ask nicely. We say please. We do this. We do that." So ultimately, they end up having to conform in order to get their desired outcome. So tantrums, such and so forth, that's what it is right now. But will it get outcomes in the long term? That is yet to be seen. So that's my perspective. I personally wouldn't recommend it. It's interesting. Years ago, I met a politician, and she was talking about people. She was like, poor people go in the street and yell and make noises. Wealth whispers. So, one is easier to hear. One, you can pull them close and have a conversation. So, which do you want to do? Interesting perspective, but another good question as well too. Let's see here what we got here. All right, this is another good question as well too. I guess it's the same thing, similar to successful women, but is how would you help someone like Lizzo in the dating market after weight loss? Well, okay, two things. Like you could have a non-celebrity woman who, and it could be a man too, but it could be a non-celebrity who has had a dramatic body change in a positive manner, meaning they were not as healthy as they could have been. Now they've gotten healthy and they're out dating, right? So the thing specifically with Lizzo, Lizzo is famous. She's a celebrity, and she's successful, financially, known wise and whatnot. So the question would be, what is the type of man that she wants and whatnot. So now she may be more attracted to them, but what are the other qualities that she has? Is she nice? Is she supportive? Is she um feminine? Is she cooperative? Because one issue with Lizzo, well, there was a case allegedly she mistreated some of her staff, and so I don't know if she takes that into her relationships. So not just the fitness rebrand, we would have to have an attitude, behavior, and that type of rebrand as well too. She's got a lot of things from a digital footprint that is not as flattering as and attractive as it could be. And the thing is, the change not just in fitness, but in the other areas, behavior, communication, that would have to be genuine as well too. So I mean, yeah, a lot of people they lose weight, they get in shape, they get muscles, they get sexy, but then they have the same nasty attitude or a new nasty attitude. That's not going to really help you. It will open some doors because the visual effect, but it won't keep those doors open. So that is how I would say that. And then just from if it's a non-celebrity woman, just a regular woman who lost weight, I first thing first, congratulations to you to losing weight, but also too, make sure that your habits will allow you to keep that, and then vet the same way you vetted before. You may be getting some new attention, but you still have to vet to make sure that there's some compatibility in some other areas as well too. So all those really really good questions as it relates to that. But when I talk with individuals about those type of things, then I ask them, what is your outcome? What are places you go, things you do, what do you want to achieve? Um, that type of thing. So I can, at least from a fashion and image standpoint, make sure that you're putting your best foot forward. Let's see right here. I get this question all the time. I like your glasses. Which one should I get? So um, I love glasses. I have more than the average person. So I have these on right here. Then I have, this pair right here. I'll show you these. Let's see how they show up on light. These got a little bit of a blue tint. So I mean, I keep glasses, right, for different things, different occasions. But the key is not just the brand, because you definitely want some quality, but it's the fit, right? These are two different styles, right? And when I look at the glass, I look at how they fit on the brow line, the side profile, temple, cheeks, and you may can't be able to see like are my eyes centered. So I see glasses all the time online that I love, but then I go to the store, I go to the boutique I go to, and they just don't fit. I'm disappointed because they have different colorways and patterns. So um, as it relates to glasses, different styles that you should have. You can have a regular pair if you're, need something for glasses. Then you have a sunglasses, some aviators, some other things like that. But you want to look at what the need is for that, and then the fit, brows, eye center, temples, those type of things. And you want a quality frame, because if you get a quality frame, not a lot of the stuff that you see, you can have it for a long time, because you can just, if you, as your prescription changes, you can change those out, and you'll be fine. But definitely not, don't just go based on, okay, it's this brand, this look or whatnot. Try it on, see how it fits, and don't see how it fits. And hopefully, like, where you go, if you're working with someone there, they're a professional and they can look at and examine and put things based on your face shape, all those type of things. All these things are important. So definitely look into that. But if I'm working with someone, we do have these types of conversations to make sure we're getting something that suits their needs, but also too has a good fit as it relates to that. All right, good question. Yeah, I love glasses. Yeah, I do. All right. Let's see what we got here. Do you think men should go back to dressing like they did in previous era? Yes and no. And what I mean by yes and no is like some of the things that they did in previous eras, they did things where their clothes fit. We didn't have, I guess, what you call the epidemic of sagging and, some of these things that didn't fit and whatnot. So I think that's important too, because when, over the last few case studies I've done Muhammad Ali, Martin Luther King, and then the young lady Elizabeth Keckley as well too. They dressed up and appeared as distinguished, gentlemen and or ladies and gentlemen, right? And so remember what I said when we're talking about outfits, like what is the message that you're wanting to send? And so if we get deep down in some of the messaging that people, maybe it's rebellious, maybe it's sexist, like all these type of things, but ask yourself that question. Whereas when you dressed in previous generations, now we did have some, players who did some other things, but the classic gentlemen, they were clean cut. Some of the things I do like is, the utility of clothes for different occasions. Um, back then it wasn't a lot of casual wear. It was suits and then work clothes, right? So I know it's some, but it's a lot more in between the versatility, which I do like, because back then travel wasn't what it is now. So people may not change climates like they do now. So I like the versatility and the utility of clothes today that was not looked at like that. But man, I love the quality, I love the cut, I love the fit of a lot of things that they do and did at that time. So you can have some things that definitely last a long time. So another great question, and again, it's about putting yourself in to put your best foot forward. So that's definitely something that you want to look at. All right, I guess this is a follow-up question. All right, let's see. Excuse me. It says, so I'm a larger woman. What are some tips for styling that you recommend? Excuse me. So this is kind of relative as well too, because you did say larger, and that can mean a number of things. It could be that you're really, really tall, you're, wider, bustier, or whatnot. But this is what I would say. What is your best feature? It could be your face, it could be your hands, could be your legs, it could be other parts of your body. And we frame that and put the focus on that, and we take the focus away from troubled areas. So one way to do that is layering, right? Because that helps you create the frame of what you want to see. Different types of patterns as well in the midsection and other areas as well too. So though, like it's hard to say without having seen you and what how you're proportioned, because larger doesn't tell me anything. But the main thing I would say is we're going to focus on like the features of you that you want to highlight and frame, and then kind of cover the trouble areas as well too. And it could be trouble for a number. You could have had children, you could have had other type of things, and you could be in the process of working on it. So you can definitely do some things to style. I have family members who are on the larger side as well too, and I enjoy working with them as well too, because colors, shapes, patterns, those are some things that make you can make features look smaller, different, no different than you go to a room, you go to an art museum or art gallery. It's things that can be done to make you focus your eyes on this area. So again, you can have beautiful smile, you can have nice eyes, arms, legs, all those type of things. So how do we highlight that as well? And then again, it depends on the occasion that you're in fact going to. So yeah, that is definitely a great question as well. And then just a side note, you want to connect with me? I'm on IG. I am Eric Hall, the same name. And so people, I get messages all the time. People reach out to me, ask me questions, and or they see me out and about in the street, and they ask me different things. And of course, I am here to help and add value. Let's see what else we got going on here. This has been a great show. Great to be here with y'all as well too. Oh, y'all got an airline question. We'll go ahead and answer that. See what else we got. It says, why do you think airlines are saying things will slow in Q1? Well, it's a number of things, whether it's places in general. We had the post-COVID bump, And the post-COVID bump with people who had, I guess, what they call cabin fever, where they're locked inside, can't go anywhere. So it's like, now I'm free, I'm going everywhere. But also too, now some places, in government as well as in the private sector, they're having people go back to office, doing less remote work, going to a hybrid process. And then there's a lot of uncertainty about finances, and when there's uncertainty about finances, people tend to travel less. And some people may say it's because of some of the air traffic incidents. I don't know, because I've been traveling. I'm going to continue to travel. I don't live in fear over here, but different people have different things and expectations and priorities that they have in their life. And so one thing about airlines, just in general, they've been taxing people. So people are evaluating how they spend money. It may pick up in the summertime because that's how people do. But let's see, because we talked about Southwest earlier, and so with these new fees, families may decide to drive or catch the train or do some other things more closely, more intimate with themselves to really enjoy. So we will see, and that's typical of airlines anyway. People come back off the new year, going back to work, such and so forth. So it happens. It happens. It happens. So that's what we got there. Let's see if we got anything else. See what we got going on in the chat. Great to be back with y'all. I didn't put the link in here. Sorry about that. I'll put it in here briefly just in case somebody wants to come up and chat for a bit. I know we usually I put it up a lot sooner, but I definitely thank all the individuals for tuning in and supporting us and supporting what we're doing over here. Hopefully you enjoyed this case study. I mean, some of these take me a little bit longer to do than other times. Sometimes it just the research, because I want to be as accurate as possible. But also to come with good value and good lessons to you all. But with that being said, we're coming up on the top of the hour, coming up on springtime. I thank y'all for tuning in. All hearts and minds are clear. Salute, and we are out. Good night, everyone.